How do you even talk about a future that isn't here yet? How are you supposed to describe a massive technological revolution when you're standing right in the middle of it? Well, you need a new vocabulary, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to build one, term by term, so we can all get a handle on the huge changes coming our way. Our guide for this is a glossary of key terms, and it's designed specifically to help us navigate this next wave of technology. I want you to think of it as our blueprint, our map for understanding everything from artificial intelligence to the future of our entire society. Okay, let's dive in. So here's how we're going to break this down. It's basically a series of challenges and responses. First, we'll define what this coming wave of technology actually is. Then, we'll get into the core dilemma it creates and see how it amplifies our fragility. Once we understand the problem, we'll look for a solution through containment. And finally, we'll talk about a balanced approach called navigating the narrow path. All right, so let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is this massive technological shift that everyone's talking about? Well, the term for it is the coming wave. Now, this isn't just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm, a whole cluster of powerful technologies like AI and synthetic biology all hitting at once. And these aren't just small updates to what we already have. They represent a fundamental, world-altering change with the potential for absolutely incredible progress. And on the flip side, some truly unprecedented dangers. At the very heart of this wave is intelligence itself. So we've got to clarify a few crucial terms. First, there's AI, or artificial intelligence. That's what we have right now. Machines that we teach to do specific, human-like tasks. Then, way at the other end of the spectrum, you've got AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's the theoretical superbrain, an AI that's smarter than any human in every single way. But there's a critical middle step, ACI, or artificial capable intelligence. This is an AI that can tackle a huge range of complex goals, even if it's not a true superintelligence yet. Really getting the spectrum is key to understanding what's at stake. Okay, so we've defined the wave. Now, let's get to the central problem here. And it's not just called a challenge. It's called the dilemma. And believe me, it's for a very, very good reason. This really is the heart of it, isn't it? I mean, imagine you're holding a tool that could solve world hunger, cure every disease, and maybe even reverse climate change. But that same exact tool could just as easily be used for unimaginable destruction. What do? How do you move forward? It's not a simple choice between good and bad. And here is the absolute gut punch. The dilemma isn't just about managing some unfortunate downsides. No, it's the very real, growing probability that these technologies will lead to truly catastrophic, world-ending, or dystopian outcomes. This tension, this danger, is just baked right into the technology itself. So why is this dilemma so incredibly hard to solve? Well, it really boils down to four key things. First, asymmetry. It is way easier to cause massive harm than it is to defend against it. Then there's hyperevolution. The technology is just changing way faster than we can possibly keep up with or regulate. Third, omnipresence. Once a new tool is out there, boom, it's everywhere, instantly. And finally, autonomy. These systems might eventually be able to act completely on their own, without us. I mean, any one of these is a huge challenge. You put them all together, and wow, it feels almost impossible to get a handle on. Now, the thing is, these technologies aren't just being built in some isolated lab totally separate from the world. No, they're interacting with our societies right now, and this is where they act as fragility amplifiers. Just think about it for a second. Our political systems, our economies, our social contracts, they were all designed for a totally different time. These new technologies don't just add a little pressure. They're experts at finding the existing cracks in our systems and just prying them wide open, amplifying all the instability that's already there. And the key phrase here is that our societal foundations are already described as brittle. See, these technologies aren't creating entirely new problems out of thin air. What they're doing is taking the vulnerabilities we already have and just cranking them up to a level we have never, ever seen before. So, with a challenge this massive, what on earth can we do? Well, the first, most logical reaction is to try and control it, to, put it in a box. The official term for this is containment. Containment is basically the dream scenario for every regulator and government out there. It's the simple idea that if something is dangerous, we should be able to watch it, limit it, and if things get really bad, just shut it down. It sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, here's the catch. We immediately crash right into the containment problem.
Technology, especially information technology, just does not like to stay in a box. It spreads, it gets copied, and honestly, its biggest impacts are often things nobody ever saw coming. Trying to contain it is like trying to hold water in your bare hands. It's pretty much impossible. So, if total wide open development is just too risky and total containment is impossible, where does that leave us? This brings us to our final concept, which offers a framework for how we might move forward. It's called the narrow path.
Now, this is not a perfect, easy solution. It's a pragmatic one. The narrow path is all about finding a really delicate, constantly adjusting balance. It's about being open enough to get all the incredible benefits from these technologies while being just closed and cautious enough to prevent the absolute worst-case scenarios. It's basically a tightrope walk for all of humanity.
And to walk that tightrope, we have to remember a really foundational principle, the grand bargain. This is the core agreement of modern society. We, the citizens, we give the state power, a monopoly on force, and in return, it keeps us safe and provides for us. The coming wave challenges this bargain like nothing before it. So, successfully navigating that narrow path means we have to reinforce this deal, making sure technology serves all of us, not undermines the very bargain that holds us together.
When you look back at all of human history, there are these specific moments that just change everything. Moments where the future itself seems to hang in the balance. Well, we are living in one of those moments right now. And it's all defined by a tool that is both a creator and potentially a destroyer, technology.
So that brings us to the big question, right? The one we're all kind of wondering about. What does this incredible, fast-moving wave of technology actually mean for us, for our society, for our future? And look, this isn't just some hypothetical I'm throwing out there. It's the exact question posed in the prologue of a book that dives deep into this stuff. It sets this really stark and urgent stage for what is, I think, one of the most important conversations we could be having right now.
To really get a handle on just how massive this moment is, we've got to look back. Because what we're seeing, it's not just another upgrade or some new gadget. We are witnessing a fundamental turning point, a true pivot in human history. I mean, think about the huge leaps we've made. The moment we harnessed fire, that gave us warmth, safety, cooked food, it literally changed our evolution. Then the wheel comes along and completely transforms travel, trade, everything. And electricity, it powered the entire modern world into existence. Each one of those wasn't just an invention, it was a total reality shift.
And that's the key. Advanced AI and biotechnology, they aren't just the next step on the ladder, they are the next leap. This is a turning point on the same level as discovering fire. And the wildest part is, unlike our ancestors, we're actually aware that we're living through it as it happens. Okay, so let's start with the good stuff. The incredible promise, that almost utopian vision these technologies offer. What kind of amazing world can we build with these unbelievably powerful new tools?
The potential here is, frankly, staggering. I mean, just break it down. With AI, we could start to unlock the actual secrets of the universe, maybe cure diseases that have been with us for thousands of years. And at the exact same time, biotech could help us end world hunger, completely transform agriculture, and build a truly sustainable planet. But it's not just about solving the big practical problems. It's also about expanding what it even means to be human. Just imagine creating totally new forms of art and expression that go way beyond anything we can even imagine today. That's the creative promise here. But, and you knew about what's coming, for every incredible promise, there's a serious peril. For every potential heaven, there's a potential hell. We have to be honest and look at the other side of this very, very powerful coin. And this is where a much darker picture starts to come into focus. The huge risk with AI, creating systems that are so complex that they're just beyond our control. And with biotech, we're talking about manipulating the literal building blocks of life. Mess that up, and you could have absolutely catastrophic unintended consequences for everybody. Just let that sink in for a second. The idea that humanity could find itself at the mercy of its own creations. It's the ultimate sci-fi warning, isn't it? The fear that we could become just passengers in a future that's being driven by code we don't even understand, let alone control. So you've got these two giant opposing forces, right? The promise of a utopia and the peril of a complete catastrophe. And this brings us right to the great question that humanity is facing right here, right now. And here is the absolute key, the thing we all have to get. This is not a choice between two different futures, like picking door number 1 or door number 2. No, the promise and the peril, they're happening right now, at the same time. They're totally tangled together. The same tech that might cure cancer could also be used to create a nightmare bioweapon. It's one road with two very different destinations. It feels so ancient, but also incredibly immediate, right? Nearly every single culture has some story about a world-ending flood. It's like a shared memory, a warning, and it's the perfect symbol for the kind of total transformation we're going to get into. And that's exactly where our source material kicks things off, with this very idea. It's not just some old story. It's a pattern. It's a way for us to try and understand a force that's so huge it just completely remakes the world. So let's chase down these echoes for a minute. How in the world does an ancient myth about water help us understand the future of technology? Well, the connection is actually way more profound than you might think. And what's really wild is how universal the story is. You've got Manu in Hindu scripture, Gilgamesh over in Mesopotamia, Noah, of course, and even the legends of Atlantis. It seems like humanity has always been completely captivated by this idea of a world-altering flood. Right, so here's the crucial point. What this wave really stands for. It's not just water, obviously. It's a metaphor for any force that is just too big to stop, too big to control, and impossible to contain. It just sweeps away the old world and leaves a new one behind, whether we're ready for it or not. And you can see this metaphor expand way beyond water. Just think about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, or the spread of world religions. These were waves of ideas, of power, of belief that totally reshaped civilization. They were every bit as transformative as a literal flood. Okay, and this is the turning point. This is the question that yanks us out of the ancient past and drops us right into our present. What happens when the wave is something we made? This brings us to what the source calls the wave of ingenuity, the idea that technology itself is the most powerful and maybe the most unpredictable force that humanity has ever let loose. Seriously, just take a second and do what it says. Look, everything you see, pretty much everything you touch, is part of this massive wave. It's not some distant thing, it's the very air we breathe, the fabric of our modern lives. I mean, the building you're in, the phone in your hand, that's the obvious stuff. But the source makes a deeper point. Our laws, our cultures, our art, even our most abstract ideas about what life is all about are all products of human ingenuity. We are literally surrounded by things we've created. And this is what we've become. Homo technologicus, the technological animal. It's just in our nature now. We have this unending, unstoppable drive to build, to improve, to automate everything. That quest is the engine pushing this wave forward. Okay, so if we've been living in this technological wave for centuries, what's so new? What's the big deal now? Well, according to our source, a wave of an entirely different size and power is gathering on the horizon. Yeah, this isn't just another ripple. This is the big one. The argument here is that what's coming next is a fundamental shift, a historical event on the scale of, say, the agricultural revolution, or maybe even bigger. So what makes this wave so different? Well, think about it. Past waves were either natural forces, like floods, or they were human-made tools, like buildings or cars. But this coming wave, powered by things like AI and new gene technologies, it isn't just a tool. It's something that can act on its own, that can learn and evolve. So the change it brings isn't just transformative, it's potentially existential. And that, right there, is the heart of it. We're not just building faster computers anymore. For the first time, we're building what the source calls a new kind of startling life. We're talking about intelligence that isn't human, and life that isn't purely biological. But here's the thing. A force this big is never simple. It's never just one thing. This coming wave has two very different sides to it, an incredible opportunity and an unprecedented danger. It's a duality that we absolutely have to face. So on one side, you have the promise, the chance to create wealth and solve problems on a scale we can barely even imagine. But then you flip the coin and you get the challenge, a period of change so fast and so deep that it's going to be, well, breathtaking, deeply unsettling, and incredibly precarious. So all of this kind of leaves us standing on the shore, watching this massive tide start to roll in. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it bringing with it? And what's it going to wash away? And that's really the ultimate question for all of us, isn't it? It's not if the wave is coming, it's already forming. The real question is, are we, as a species, as a society, even remotely ready for the world it's about to create? And we'll just end on this final, sobering thought from the source. It's always tempting to dismiss these kinds of big predictions, right? But the argument here is that we just can't afford to this time. Because this wave isn't just another page in the history books. This time is different.